16 games and a whole lot of studs on the docket for tonight in daily fantasy baseball. And our job for today is to dig through all the potential value plays and decide where we can go in order to jam in guys like Aaron Nola, guys like Garrett Cole, these really good hitters in good situations we want to use for tonight. We got to find a way to make it all fit, and it's not easy, but I think we can make it happen. So let's dive on in and get you set for Friday night slate. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to preview Friday's 15-game main slate. We're locked set for 7:05 for tonight. There are some weather notes for today, which is no shocker on such a full slate. We could see some rain late in Baltimore for the Orioles and the Rays. It looks now as if that rain will arrive sometime around mid-game, but I would check back on the timeline of that later on. It's a similar thing in Philadelphia for the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. Right now, I think we'll be good to go, but check back on that one later. There is a slight chance of rain in New York for the Mets and the Nationals. Check back on that one later on. And finally, the worst game on the slate as far as weather goes is in Minneapolis. Looking pretty sketchy for the Twins and the Brewers. Rain there comes early and looks pretty heavy, so that one could be in trouble. So the main game for tonight to check on for weather is Twins-Brewers, but also check back on Mets-Nationals, Phillies-Diamondbacks, and Orioles versus the Rays. Hopefully good weather updates to come in the 4 p.m. stream, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Check us out there. Also good stuff here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Austin Swain's UFC preview of Vegas 35 is now posted, giving us thoughts on that slate. That's up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. As far as NASCAR goes, we have the NASCAR podcast recording live on YouTube at 10:30 a.m., up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. After that, it's Daytona on Saturday. So sets up pretty well. Should be a fun slate. Swing by 10:30 YouTube to check that out, or check out the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review as well. Hey, soccer fans, this season, FanDuel and Captain Morgan are teaming up to give you a one-of-a-kind soccer contest. Introducing Captain Morgan Soccer Pick'em, a weekly fantasy contest that is entirely free to play. The contest is simple. All you have to do is make quick predictions for Saturday games this soccer season. You'll earn points for each correct pick and compete for a chance to win up to $3,000 in prizes every single week. Head over to FanDuel and enter the Captain Morgan Soccer Pick'em today. Must be 21 plus to participate. For more details, visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Fantasy app. Eligibility restrictions apply, and don't forget to make your game day more delicious and sub in the captain. Pitching preview for this Friday main slate, Garrett Cole back to being the king of the mountain. He is 11-2 on FanDuel for today. Shane McClanahan checks in at 10-5, facing the Orioles for the second time in his past couple starts. We got Kevin Gausman at 10-1, facing the Braves. Aaron Nola in a good spot is $10,000. Max Fried is 96. Joe Musgrove, 92. Then we have Wade Miley, Eduardo Rodriguez, Sean Manaea, Chris Bubich, Jay Happ, Steven Matz, Eric Lauer, and Logan Gilbert, all at $8,000 or higher. So yeah, the studs are good. We also have a lot of second-tier options for today. Now, the second-tier options are fine. No objections there. But I want to do whatever I can to get to Aaron Nola for today, because you're not going to find many situations better than the one that he has. Nola is at home, and that does tend to matter more for him than for other pitchers. He's facing the Diamondbacks, which is one of the better matchups imaginable. So Nola, to me, an absolute stud on this slate. Nola was unreal on Saturday against the Padres. Obviously, did let up the home run late to Jake Cronenworth, but 11 strikeouts in that game. It was on the road against a low strikeout team. He's been cutting back on his changeup usage over his past 7 starts, which is kind of interesting given how good that pitch was for him last year, but it hasn't mattered. In that time, he still has a 3.47 skill interactive ERA. His strikeout rate is 29%. We can use Nola even in tough matchups, which is what he showed over this past weekend, and this is not a tough matchup. They have an 83 WRC plus versus righties. The ISO for Arizona is down to 132. They got a 25% strikeout rate. So when a pitcher is facing Arizona, you bump them up quite a bit, especially at home. And Nola doesn't need that bump. Like, he would be in play on the slate in a neutral matchup, but you give me this matchup at home, I'm going to take it for sure. $10,000 on Nola. It's not low, but I would still say he is under salaried. I'd pay 11. happily for Aaron Nola in this matchup. So getting him at $10,000, I think to me is a steal. Yes, it's high, but yes, it is also a massive steal. So Aaron Nola to me, the no-brainer top arm for tonight on the daily fantasy baseball slate. And 10K is not outrageous. So we have some flexibility hitter. We'll talk about stacks for today under the mindset of trying to get to Nola at 10,000. As far as the number 2 guy, it is Garrett Cole for me. He's facing the A's, which is a tough matchup. Luckily for us, it's in a great park for pitching, and Cole is just out of his mind right now. I will put him second behind Nola here, despite the fact that he is 11-2 on a slate where I do want to spend up for some high salaried stacks. Cole was one of the guys who definitely slipped when the sticky stuff discussion began, and it likely took him a while to adapt with less grip, trying to figure out how to grip that ball and make it work. And I'm not sure if this is the cause, but the movement on his curveball did change recently. And I think that the thought process here is, okay, did he figure out how to get that grip back without the sticky stuff? He started getting quite a bit more movement on that pitch 6 starts ago. And the curve is not a big pitch for Cole. So I'm not looking at that pitch specifically, but I'm looking at what that could indicate. It could illustrate that Cole has figured his grip back out, and he has been lights out in this stretch. He has a 2.66 skill interactive ERA. His strikeout rate is 38%, which means he is back to being the Garrett Cole of old in this time. And he's done that in really tough matchups. He had 10 strikeouts against the Rays, 11 against Boston, 12 against Houston in that game where he went like 193 pitches. And the pitch count is worked back up as well. He has gone 90 and 97 in his 2 starts off the COVID IL. So pitch count has worked back up. He's had double-digit strikeouts against really good teams. And now I think that you put him against Oakland, we can at least have more confidence in him despite the tough matchup because of what he's been doing recently. If Nola weren't in literally the best spot imaginable, I'd be higher on Cole. This is not a Cole thing. It's a I really freaking love Aaron Nola thing. As it is, I'm very okay putting Cole second. He is too good from a talent perspective to put any lower than that, even in tough matchups. So to me, the top of the slate is Aaron Nola, definitively 1, Garrett Cole, definitively 2, and then the rest of the guys are fighting for third place. Among the value pitchers for tonight, I think the top option for me is pretty clear, which is Logan Gilbert. And I will say that acknowledging that his past couple starts have not been good. He's $8,000. That does help account for the struggles a bit. And Gilbert's had kind of like 3 distinct stages in his rookie year. Struggled out of the gate, surged for a while, and now he's come back to earth. And he's gotten rocked each of his past 2 starts, but those 2 were in much tougher matchups than what he has here. The 2 starts he had were against Houston and Toronto, 2 of the best teams in baseball, best offenses in baseball. Gilbert let up 14 earned runs between those 2 games combined, 9 against Houston. So it's super brutal, really bad, not great. But I like that Gilbert has stuck with his plan in those starts because he has good peripherals with his approach. The specific approach is using his slider more often over his past 8 starts. He has a 3.57 skill interactive ERA with a 27% strikeout rate in that time. His walk rate is 5%. The batted ball data is bad, which is why he's getting pounded. So it's not like a mystery as to why the results are bad. It's because his batted ball data is rough. I just worry less about that against the Royals than a lot of other teams because the Royals have a 145 ISO against righties. Their WRC plus is 88. They don't walk a whole lot, which should help Gilbert get deeper in the game. So yeah, he's struggled recently, and he has done so in a pretty brutal fashion. But I like the underlying numbers. He's at home. The matchup is a lot softer this time around. So I think to me, this is a bet on talent. And I want to ride Gilbert among the values at $8,000. I think he is the most talented guy below 8,000 outside of maybe Sean Manaea. Manaea's facing the Yankees, though. This is a better spot than that. So I think that Gilbert is someone I'm willing to go to despite the most recent couple of really rough starts. Let's move now to stacks. And again, with stacks, I am operating under the mindset that we are using Aaron Nola as our pitcher at $10,000. That means we can stack some high salary teams. We want to find some low salary guys within those stacks. So we'll talk about the stack and then highlight potential outlets for some salary savings. For me, stacking starts with the Red Sox. Once again, they have been a constant theme throughout this week because they faced the Twins' depleted pitching staff, and now they're facing Cleveland and Logan Allen. I think we should go right back to them once again, no matter how boring it may be to be on Boston once again. Allen has been in AAA basically since May on, had a couple starts in the big league sprinkled in there, but in AAA, things have not gone well for Allen. He has a 5.17 xFIP. He has a 7.95 ERA in AAA again, and he walks a lot of guys. We don't necessarily want to target high walk pitchers for DFS because it limits balls in play. Balls in play are your path to upside. But in the majors, the strikeout rate for Allen is just 14%, which means that he's still letting up the ball in play 75% of the time, despite a 10% walk rate. That's something we can work with. He's allowed a 43% hard hit rate. The one negative with Allen is that he does get some ground balls, but clearly, based on the results, that has not done enough to erase the other stuff in his profile. We've seen Allen get rocked at both AAA and the majors. Now he's facing a Red Sox team with a 104 WRC plus against lefties. It is pretty boring, I will say, to stack the same team the entire week. We get bored using the same dudes, but I think we should do it here. Within this Red Sox team, Bobby Dahlbeck, kind of the obvious value play, had a double dong last night, so Dahlbeck very on board with. But one guy to keep an eye on for value is Christian Arroyo. There is a really good chance he does not play today, so keep that in mind. But they may have an extra spot out there with Hunter Renfroe not available for this couple games. Arroyo, a 209 ISO against lefties in a small sample this year. He's minimum salary. So again, make sure he plays. But he was in there last night, may get back in there today. Would not be shocked if he plays against the lefties. So I do like the salary savings if he winds up in there. Again, Dahlbeck definitely in play for sure. But Arroyo, another guy to check out if he winds up in there to get the extra flexibility to get to JD Martinez, to get the other guys, Kike Hernandez. Even the lefties are totally fine against Allen. So see if Arroyo is in there. Otherwise, Dahlbeck, the key value play on the Red Sox. Our second stack is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays because poor Matt Harvey feels like he's faced Tampa 90 times this year. In reality, it's just twice. But Tampa Bay rocked him in both those starts, and I want to be there for the third time for tonight. The first time that Harvey faced the Rays was back on May 18th. He let up 6 earned runs in 1 1/3 innings. That was a long time ago, and Harvey has made some changes since then. He's throwing fewer four-seam fastballs and more curveballs now. And it has led to some better results for Harvey. It did not help him the second time he faced Tampa Bay, though, which was within this sample. It was 2 starts ago. He let up 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Overall, with this new approach for Harvey, he has a 43% hard hit rate allowed. His strikeout rate is 18%. That's not a great combination, especially against an offense as good as Tampa Bay's. They have a 116 WRC plus against righties. Their ISO is 207. Now they get a park factor upgrade in going to Baltimore as well. So trying to find issues with this stack. Can't really find too many outside of the potential for some rain in this game. So check back on that for sure. But I think that the Rays are a priority against Harvey for tonight. As far as the value plays, you could go Joey Wendell. It's fine. He's there. He's a guy, could be fine. But I'm really hoping Brett Phillips gets the start here. He may not. So again, keep that in mind. Similar to Arroyo, he may not start, but Phillips is really fun if he does. He has a 260 ISO against righties, a lot of fly balls. I would want to get him in there if he does wind up playing for today. Great salary saver at $2,500. So Brett Phillips, official stamp of approval for today if he gets in there because we need those salary savings. He's got upside. Great matchup. So check out the Rays lineup. Settle for Wendell if you have to. But to me, Phillips is the guy if he can find his way in there. Our third stack, also high salaried, but also has some value plays there. That is the Toronto Blue Jays facing Matt Manning. Manning is a different pitcher than he was earlier in the year because he's changed some things up. But I still think we can stack against this current version of Manning. Specifically, Manning added a sinker back on July 26th. It is a new pitch for him, but the pitching staff said he's been working on it for a bit, and he had to change something up. So it makes sense he would do this. And it means that the old data on Manning is pretty easy to throw out. We're up to a 5-start sample on Manning with that sinker, and his fly ball rate is down to 36%. That is an improvement from where it was, but it comes with a 14% strikeout rate and a 6% walk rate. That means he's letting up balls in play 80% of the time. 42% of those balls in play are well hit. That's why his ERA in the sample is 6.04, and it's that high despite some soft matchups. He's faced Baltimore twice, he faced Cleveland once, and you would expect a guy to do pretty well against that string of teams. Didn't fare that well. Now it's facing the Blue Jays. They have a 114 WRC plus against righties with a 198 ISO. They don't strike out that much. So I do love that Manning is tinkering, trying to change things up, trying to adapt to the big leagues. It shows a willingness to be malleable, and that's good. That's great for a young guy. I just haven't seen enough yet to say that he's fixed the past issues, which does push me to stack the Jays against him here. I've not gotten to talk about the Jays since Alejandro Kirk moved up in the order. He's been batting sixth quite a bit recently, which is high enough to party for sure. Against righties, Kirk has a 47% fly ball rate. His ISO is just okay at 169, but he's $2,100. I can live with that for sure. I would also use Corey Dickerson at $2,600 if I need some extra salary savings. So Kirk, Dickerson, the two guys to turn to here. If Kirk is in the lineup, he may not play over McGuire, but if he does play, again, official stamp of approval. So Arroyo, Dahlbeck, Brett Phillips, Joey Wendell, Corey Dickerson, Alejandro Kirk. We have low salaried ways to get exposure to these really good offenses, and I want to take advantage of that to make it easier to get to Aaron Nola for tonight. Speaking of the Phillies, let's move now to things to watch. I think that offense has good dinger upside tonight. Makes it pretty interesting for one-offs. They're facing Taylor Widener, and Widener is not a guy I really want to stack against because he gets strikeouts, he walks a lot of guys, but he does let up a 42% hard hit rate and a 51% fly ball rate. That is the perfect recipe for one-offs. That'll clearly put me on Bryce Harper. That one's pretty obvious, but Brad Miller's pretty solid with Reese Hoskins now being done for the year, Didi Gregorius, Odubel Herrera. All those guys work for one-offs too. So definitely check out the Phillies. I might not get there for a full stack. Maybe I will if I need to use Miller, Herrera, and Gregorius for salary savings, but I think they're better for one-offs than for full stacks. Glenn Otto is making his debut for the Royals tonight, and he's facing the Astros, so sick timing on the Royals' part to call him up for that. Otto, part of the Joey Gallo trade, got a ton of strikeouts in Double-A. He hasn't been as big of a force there in Triple-A, and it makes sense. It's a big jump from Double-A to Triple-A. But I do think that I'm willing to stack against him here, given the dip he's had in strikeouts at AAA. The reason the Astros were not higher on this list is because they don't have a lot of tape on this guy, and we'll sometimes see teams disappoint when they're seeing a pitcher for the first time. So that's the one downside here. Still a good stack, but that keeps them from being a great stack. Finally, I also like the Chicago White Sox in the Crosstown Classic today. They're facing Keegan Thompson. He's stretching out to be a starter now. It doesn't seem to have like starter level stuff though. He has a low strikeout rate as a reliever, lets up a lot of hard contact. He's had good results this year. His ERA is like 2.66 or so, but I would not expect those good results to continue as he goes longer in games. So the White Sox definitely work. Eloy Jimenez is undersalaried even at $3,400. He's in the middle of a slump, but he did go deep last night. So I think Eloy Jimenez a good option in terms of one-offs if you're stuck in the middle range at outfield. Let's finish up here with the home run calls for today. Going right back to that Phillies game, mentioned that the contact profile Widener allows is tremendous for some dingers. So give me Bryce Harper as a guy who should go deep for tonight. It's a boring call, but hey, that's why we're here. Bryce Harper. And I also would say that the home run prop on Harper pretty long. I think it's like plus 270 or so. Shouldn't be that long. Should be shorter. Bryce Harper, good bet, but also my home run call in the boring range for tonight. The fun one, I will go to Bobby Dahlbeck. Double dong last night for him. Maybe means he doesn't qualify for fun, but hey, I mean, he's batting ninth. Facing a lefty, tends to see the ball a lot better against lefties, and Allen, not a big strikeout guy. So great situation for Bobby Dahlbeck. So the home run calls for today, Bryce Harper and Bobby Dahlbeck, hoping to go out on a high note for this weekend. That is all that we have here for today on the Solo Shot. But as mentioned, big day coming up here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Austin Swaim's UFC DFS preview already posted up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, breaking down this weekend's card. NASCAR podcast coming up 10:30 on YouTube and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed after that. Make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review. Check out the 4 p.m. stream later on today as well. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. If you have questions for me before 4 p.m., I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck today. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.